Pressure does not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it comes quietly, through expectation, through urgency, through the fear of falling behind. Most people obey it without noticing. They hurry, they explain, they compromise their calm to keep up with the world. But the Stoic does something different. He pauses. He asks what pressure is asking from him, and whether it deserves obedience. Because pressure can shape a life without ever being questioned, and freedom begins when the mind refuses to be owned. Pressure often feels external, a deadline, a demand, a standard set by someone else, but its real power is internal. It enters through thought. The mind says, "This must happen now. This must be perfect. This must not fail." And suddenly the body tightens. The breath shortens. The mind becomes narrow. Stoicism does not deny this. It studies it. Because when you understand pressure, you can separate what is real from what is imagined. And most of what controls people is imagined. Pressure becomes dangerous when it turns into identity, when your worth depends on performance, when calm depends on outcomes, when you believe your value is measured by how much you can carry. This is how people become owned. They do not notice the chain. They call it ambition. They call it responsibility. But inside, they are no longer free. The Stoic sees this early. He understands that life will always ask, but you can choose what you accept as necessary and what you refuse as unnecessary suffering. Pressure becomes dangerous when it turns into identity, when your worth depends on performance, when calm depends on outcomes, when you believe your value is measured by how much you can carry. This is how people become owned. They do not notice the chain. They call it ambition. They call it responsibility. But inside, they are no longer free. The Stoic sees this early. He understands that life will always ask, but you can choose what you accept as necessary and what you refuse as unnecessary suffering. There is a quiet skill in holding pressure without becoming it. Most people merge with it. They become the stress. They become the urgency. They become the tension. The Stoic separates. He says pressure is here, but it is not me. This distinction is small, but it changes everything. Because what you identify with, you obey. If pressure becomes the self, you live as its servant. But if pressure is only a condition, you remain free inside it. Freedom is not the absence of weight. It is the ability to carry weight without losing your mind. Pressure often creates noise, not outside, inside. The mind begins to speak quickly. What if this fails? What if they judge me? What if I fall behind? This inner noise is what exhausts people, not the task itself. The Stoic does not argue with every thought. He watches it. He notices how thoughts try to become commands. He allows them to pass without granting authority. This is not optimism, it is discipline. When the inner voice calms, the situation becomes simpler. And when the situation becomes simpler, pressure loses its grip. Pressure can also be social. The pressure to say yes, to be available, to appear capable. Many people accept more than they should because they fear disappointment. They fear losing respect. But respect earned through overextension is not respect. It is expectation. The Stoic understands that boundaries are part of freedom, not loud boundaries, quiet ones. He does not need to announce them. He simply chooses. He declines what makes him unstable, not because he is fragile, but because he values his clarity. And clarity cannot exist in a life without limits. A person owned by pressure is easy to manipulate. You can push them by threatening their image. You can control them by creating urgency. You can exhaust them by keeping them uncertain. The Stoic sees this. He refuses to be moved by the fear of how he appears. He refuses to be rushed by someone else's panic. He refuses to sacrifice his center for temporary approval. This is not resistance for its own sake. It is self-possession. A calm mind is difficult to control because it is not desperate. It does not chase relief through constant action. It does what must be done and nothing more. Pressure makes people speak. They explain. They justify. They promise too much. They try to remove tension through words, but words often add more. The Stoic uses fewer words when pressure rises, not to appear mysterious, but because words under pressure often come from fear. Fear of being judged, fear of being seen as inadequate. Silence creates space, and space allows the mind to return to what is within control. The Stoic does not need to perform calm. He returns to calm by reducing what is unnecessary. Pressure grows when everything feels urgent. Silence reminds you that not everything is urgent. There is a difference between responsibility and self-destruction. Many people confuse the two. They believe being strong means carrying everything without pause. But strength without wisdom is just endurance. And endurance without direction leads to collapse. The Stoic chooses responsibility without self-destruction. He works, he commits, he does what must be done. But he does not surrender his mind. He does not trade health for praise. He does not trade peace for the illusion of control. Because even success is not worth a mind that is constantly afraid. Freedom under pressure means remaining human while you carry the load. Pressure also tests values. When things become urgent, people abandon principle. They cut corners. They betray themselves. They act from fear. The Stoic treats pressure as a mirror. It shows what is stable and what is not. When pressure arrives, he does not become someone else. He becomes more precise. He remembers what matters. He keeps his actions aligned with the kind of person he wants to be. This is where dignity lives, not in perfect calm, but in consistency. Pressure cannot own you when it cannot change your character. It can demand effort, but it cannot demand your soul. In the Stoic view, freedom is internal. It is not granted by circumstances. It is maintained by discipline. Pressure tries to convince you that your state depends on outcomes, that you cannot be calm until the problem is solved. But the Stoic knows calm is not the reward. Calm is the method. It is how you approach the moment without giving away your mind. You may still feel weight. You may still feel urgency, but you do not let those feelings choose for you. Freedom is the ability to act with clarity while the world pushes, not after the pushing stops. Over time, a person who is not owned by pressure becomes noticeable, not because he is perfect, because he is steady. He does not rush to impress. He does not panic to please. He does not collapse under expectation. He is reliable because his mind is not chaotic. He can be trusted because he is not driven by fear. The Stoic does not seek pressure. He does not romanticize it. But when pressure arrives, he meets it with quiet competence. He does not give it more power than it deserves. He remains the same person in ease and in difficulty. That is a kind of freedom few people experience. Pressure will always exist. Life will always demand something. Time will always be limited. Others will always expect. But you can decide what those demands become inside you. You can carry weight without letting it crush your mind. You can work without becoming anxious. You can respond without being owned. The Stoic does not defeat pressure. He simply refuses to surrender his inner life to it. He keeps his attention, he keeps his breath, he keeps his dignity, and in that quiet possession, there is something steady, not resolved, not finished, just free.